Astronauts to the moon.
10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome to reality.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jeranism, back with another video for you today. A video debate. This debate will be with Mike Mann. You can find him anytime you need him at the Flat Earth Society Forum. He's a regular. Here's the format for the debate. I'll give a short intro and then 3 points of issue. Then Mike will reply with his intro and a response plus his 3 points. And we'll go back and forth from there. So first, let's meet Michael Mann. About a year ago, I went to the Flat Earth Research Society Forum, started poking around, and I saw somebody with 5,000 posts. I said, man, this guy must be the most knowledgeable flat earther of all time. Well, it was Mike, a globe believer, who has 5,429 posts at the Flat Earth Research Society Forum. Now, he goes by the name mikeman7918. That 7918 is his personal goal, because if he reaches it, he gets his bonus. So that's how they, entice these shills to keep posting day after day. In fact, 5429 is 10 posts per day over, I think, just the 3 years he's been there. 5429. I mean, I haven't even brushed my teeth that many times, have I? Let's see, once a week. It's 52 times 36. Yeah, it's like less than 2,000. Yeah, not even close. So good luck to Mike, nonetheless. I hope you get your bonus. Must be tough, having to argue on behalf of mainstream science day in and day out. So hopefully I can present a challenge for the seasoned veteran. And now for my intro. I want to tell a little story so people can get a better understanding of flat earthers. So I'm going to tell a story about the art of deception. A good deception is always multi-layered. Let's start with, 6 people and go back 50 to 100 years ago, when cities and towns are starting to emerge. And let's take it and say it's a boys' club, kind of like Skull and Bones or Demolay, Club 33 or Vril or Thule. Freemasonry. It's just a group of guys and girls that really trust each other. Let's say they have a blood oath. Now their goal is to make a little extra money, and not the honest way. So as they're discussing their plans, they each have a couple friends in mind that they think might want to be involved, and so they go out and recruit some more. So now the club has, let's say, 10 people. And they're ready to start their little project, which is going to be incorporating a new city tax into the tax code. We'll call it City Tax X. And so they've got a pretty wide-ranging group. They got a lawyer, they got a computer geek, they have a police officer, somebody who works in the hospital, even a judge. Then they have their internet trolls. 3 of them who just make fake accounts and fake responses to fake questions all day, every day. One of the trolls, a little social butterfly, also likes to go into town and just kind of put his ear to the ground and see what are people talking about. One of the 10 even works for City Hall in the Planning Commission. Another works for the Channel 7 News in the media. Still another works for the bank. So what they've managed to do is they added a $6 a year tax, which we're going to call City Tax X, to the property taxes. It's $1.50 a quarter, 50 cents a month. It's just slipped right in there, nobody even notices. Their upcoming goals would be a city council member. They still have their trolls going, their lawyers, they got the media, maybe somebody will write a book. They've got their talking head, they've got their cop, maybe a real estate agent, they got their nurse at the hospital. Oh, I almost forgot, they have that crazy disgruntled guy. He's talking all the shit. He's a little bit crazy, likes to write letters to the editor. He even takes the case to court and purposely loses, but at least it's legal precedence. The lawyer also does a good job of going to all the new lawyers that come into town and just kind of being that good Samaritan, that nice guy, and mentioning that he specializes in different tax cases. And this way, if anybody ever calls asking questions, they'll forward the call right over to him. So now it's been a few years, and so you look at the bottom of the bill here, it shows that the deception tax X is down there, $6 a year, but when you've got, say, a city of 100,000 people and 50,000 paying property tax, That's $300,000 split 10 ways. And that's all this is of course one big deception, because the tax that people think they're paying, they think it goes to a state appropriations tax for services and events. But really it's written out and goes to one of the 10, of course, unbeknownst to the layperson. Then they hit the jackpot. The sheriff becomes the mayor. So this group, after only 10, 15, 20 years, is sitting pretty. And as the years have gone on, these people have had kids, got into relationships, met new friends, and added a few people. Now, granted, this is a very simplified case, but the point is here that they've got all their bases covered. The fact is that they've had court cases regarding this city tax. The judge has ruled in these cases, which has made it case law, which means now when anybody goes and looks up anything on the internet, of course they're going to find things that prove the tax to be true. You've had trolls for now at this point 10, 20, 30 years who have been spending all day every day claiming to be many different people from many different walks of life, all proving city tax X. So these guys are all sitting pretty. They were at the right place in the right time, and they've been able to fool the masses. Who's going to question city tax X? No one's going to question it. Court cases have been going on for years. It's in the books. Now, if anybody out there thinks I oversimplified this and nothing like this goes on in real life, you are terribly deceived and confused. This is exactly what goes on everywhere. Now ask yourself, have you ever questioned any of those taxes? They seem like such small, minuscule amounts you don't even worry about them. But you also might think, well, someone else has done the research. Well, what if everyone assumes that someone else has done the research and it's just now a part of regular life? What if I start to doubt this tax and I look into it, and through my research I do find a letter from the lawyer to the judge where it seems to be that they're talking about something to do with deceiving people over some certain tax? Well, if I try to bring it up to anyone, I will get laughed at. And if you do try and take it to court, people will say you're crazy. It's a $6 tax. You're insane for even thinking about it, or thinking there's some crazy conspiracy going on between the government and your city. So, what is somebody to do? This tax is technically true. It's been being paid by everyone who owns a house for 40 years. So it is now a fact. And it's a measly $6 tax. Who is going to risk their job for that? Who's going to risk their family? Who's going to risk their life? Now, if you think that that didn't happen, then you are very confused. People take advantage of every situation they can. And there's bad people in this world who have taken advantage of us. Now, the reason I decided to tell this story before getting into this debate is it's kind of funny the amount of things people will come at us as flat earth researchers and say, show me proof. How does your sun and moon go around the sky? What holds it up? Show me proof. Show me proof, Jaron, satellites don't exist. Where's the proof? Well, of course there is no proof. Just as there is no proof that the City X tax doesn't exist or shouldn't exist. There is no proof. But what we do have is a ton of evidence. Enough that should make any person who can use their brain realize that space is not what we were taught. Some of us, and you can call us truthers, call us whatever you want, are simply realizing that something is not right. And the first place we want to go is to question those in charge, because we've realized that some of the things we were taught in school are not true. Does that mean the teachers and everybody is a part of a big conspiracy? No, they themselves are fooled. They taught us that the Pilgrims and the Indians had a nice little Thanksgiving supper, and that was the end of that. They taught us that Christopher Columbus discovered America. Did you know Christopher Columbus has never set foot on the continental United States? Not 1 foot. He was, however, a murderer and a rapist, and yet today we still celebrate Columbus Day. We all learned about how great Henry Ford was, even though he really was a Nazi sympathizer and a white supremacist. Now I'm sure you're thinking, what does this have to do with the debate? And I'm getting there. I'm trying to show you some of the reasons that we shouldn't just trust our government. Look into the 1943 ruling that gave Tesla the invention of the radio. then go over to Google and search who invented the radio. And when you see Marconi's name, ask yourself, why? Did you know that the income tax that everyone pays is a complete and total fraud? There is no law that says you have to pay income tax, but we all just pay it because it's the general consensus that you have to. The IRS sends our money to the crown, and then our government borrows money from the fiat banks at interest that we all have to pay back. Our government has assigned committees and commissions to get to the bottom of events like 9/11 or the assassination of JFK, and those reports came back as examples of what the reports would look like if we asked the original 10 for a report on the legality of the city tax X. It does, however, take you opening your eyes to see the deception. If you go look up on the internet whether San Bernardino was real or not, you're going to get reports by the media that are bought and paid for that say it was real, and you're going to get reports by the trolls or people who work for the government to tell you that it was real. These false flags are happening now on a more consistent basis. People are being killed by our own government. And the reason why is simple, because the government knows they're running out of time. These guys are starting to feel the pressure. People need to ask themselves, why are we still in war? Why have we been in constant war since World War I and World War II? And the reason is simple, because money comes from wars. Wars are great for business. Just look at World War II, a war that we started out neutral in, and then because of Pearl Harbor, quickly declared war on Japan. But if you didn't know, you can just look it up. The evidence is everywhere. Even with Secretary of War Henry Stimson revealed that in a journal entry from just 10 days prior to Pearl Harbor that Roosevelt wanted the Japanese to fire first and wondered how he could make them do it. Tons of documents unequivocally prove that he knew exactly where and when that attack would take place. But if you look it up, you might find CIA historians who will say that those documents aren't true, or that those are unfounded facts, and then they'll call it a conspiracy theory. But that, you guys will accept as evidence. You see, the evidence that exists that proves our government should not be trusted is everywhere. But I may be screaming that the city tax X is fake, but if all you do is go to the internet and look it up, you'll tell me every time that it is true. It is a real tax. It says so right there in Wikipedia. If you really want to see who this government is, you should look into the Doctrine of Discovery. I put a link in the description. It's too big to go into now, but you need to read it and understand that our country still goes by that law. As recent as 2005, it has been used by the Supreme Court as justification for what they're doing. Once you see that, it should be painfully obvious why our government is not a government that should be trusted or given the benefit of the doubt. So once you realize that our government acts an awful lot like the original 10, then you should look into science, mathematics, and of course, space. The question we hear over and over again every day is, how could they fake space? Why would they do it? It doesn't make any sense. We've been taught it. It's been in our schools for years. And that's what we're trying to tell you. Just look at the tax money they bring in. Look at the merchandise sales. Look at the jobs they create. And you can realize why it all is helpful in propping up a fake system that's bent on corruption. Just because they tell you that satellites exist does not mean that satellites exist. Just because they build rockets and send rockets into the sky does not mean that they go to space. And just because a light goes by your head at night when they tell you it'll go by does not mean that that light is the same ISS they show you on TV. Again, if this was a government that deserved or earned our trust, that's one thing. This government hasn't earned our trust at all. In fact, we should make them prove every claim. Could the ISS be real? Could they be sending people into outer space? Absolutely, but they stop short at proof. It's all banked on public opinions and what's in books. Just because you like space doesn't mean space exists. Just because everyone in the country likes NASA doesn't mean NASA is who they say they are. Now here's the worst part. Rather than helping us and demanding proof from those at the top, you all fight us. Now I'll promise you this. If you're one of those like Mike Mann or other Globers who think flat earthers are uneducated, cave-dwelling morons, I will guarantee you this. You are not wealthy. You are not in the government. You do not go to space. You are not a judge. You are not in the club. The difference is, we are trying to get those in the club to prove they're legit. And you are fighting on behalf of that club. And because you are so proud of your position in the slave system, that all you do is get off on calling people that you think are below you stupid. Because they question what you don't. So, coming up are my 3 proofs, my 3 points. But let me just remind you of one last thing. That I am exactly like you. I'm the same as you. I went to school just like you. I believed in space. I believed in Mars. I believed in the moon landings, just like you. I thought the ISS was going around the Earth, just like you do. The only difference is, I don't believe in what I've been taught, because the people who have taught it have been proven to be liars. So until they prove it to me, I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt anymore. You're all willing to give it up. You're willing to just follow blindly. NASA must be telling the truth. Yep, because men always tell the truth. Evolution must be true, right? Scientists would never lie. Like Piltdown Man. And yes, some of you want to get nitpicky. Flat Earthers better have the whole system figured out. Because your system is perfect. But imagine for a second. Imagine Flat Earth came in out of nowhere and said, hey guys, just to let you know, you're actually flying through space at 66,000 miles per hour. Huh? And actually we're in a solar system that itself goes around the galaxy at 480,000 miles per hour. 480? What are you talking about? And our galaxy is going 2.2 million miles per hour. And you don't feel any of that. And those stars that you see are so far that you don't see them change at all, ever. Even a star that is 4 light years away doesn't move in comparison to the star that's 16,308 light years behind it. That's 97 quadrillion miles, and we can see it with our unaided eye. You'd be saying, you're crazy. Oh, and you can fit 100 Earths inside of Jupiter, that little light you see in your telescope. And all the planets would side by side between us and the moon. And yeah, the sun is just a star, an average star, one of billions, and you can fit 1 million Earths inside of it. And it is 93 million miles away. And it's actually closer to us during winter. Oh yeah, and you're spinning. Going upside down, changing speeds and all, and you feel nothing because the atmosphere of air is moving with the spinning Earth. Oh, and that space agency who tells you all this is very Masonic. It was actually started by captured Nazi scientists who spent most of their time testing on human subjects and know all the brainwashing techniques that there are to know. It is the most absurd nonsense anyone has ever heard of, and the only reason it makes any sense is because you were taught it. That's it. Otherwise, it's a joke. And believe me, it's not just science and mathematics and education and the government. There's a lot of other members of the original 10, like Joel Osteen, who lives in a $14 million house for being a preacher. He's part of the original 10. Others are part of the original 12. But they're all the same. They're all deceivers, and they're all deceiving us. So, I apologize for going so long, taking 20 minutes of my intro. Mike Mann, feel free to take 20 minutes to tell us how much we should listen to our government. Alright, here goes. Starting off with my first point.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Alright, proof number 1 is Polaris, the North Pole star. The simple fact is, it does not move. Not ever. Not in 1,000 years, not in 3,000 years, not in 10,000 years. What they do is tell you that it moves. Get a pipe, nail it somewhere to the side of your house where it's pointing right at the North Star, and check it every single day. It will never move. Find a planetarium software. I like this one, but you can choose your very own. Use Stellarium, use whatever you want. Put your location, face north, and take a look at the North Star. Now you may be saying, well, in the past it was a different star, or in the future it'll be a different star. There is no proof of that. The star has remained exactly where it is for all of our lifetimes, period. And when you take your Stellarium software, we're looking north now, you can change the time, make sure everything is rotating the way it's supposed to, do whatever you got to do, point up at Polaris so you can see it, and start moving the days. Then move the months, you can then move the years. You'll see here, I'm just holding down the year button. It's just going to keep going, and you might notice something. The North Star does not move. I'll fast forward this so we can get to quite a few more years. As we fast forward this, you'll see that the star just remains in the same spot, and yeah, you're going to have some people that are going to tell you that the North Star changes. It moves, it does, we swear. It used to be this star, or it's going to be this star. Now, let's just think. If a whole new star was going to be the North Star, then it would still have to be slowly moving out of the way. But it's not. What you see here is called negative parallax. So basically they measure the movement of the star versus a background star. And if it's positive, they write it in their little book, publish it in their magazines, it goes out as truth. I'll link this paper in the description, but basically it just tells you exactly what to do if you notice negative parallax. And what's the answer? As always, in this paper, the Astronomer Royal, or the Astronomer Royale, develops the specific formula in the theory of probability applicable to the case. And from the internal mean errors in an excessive series of Greenwich parallaxes of stars having proper motions greater than 20 degrees per century, he derives corrections to all three observed parallaxes and applies them. So if you see negative parallax in reality, you better add that formula to adjust it for what you're supposed to see. So I've stopped here. We're already at 6,270, and obviously the North Star has not budged a centimeter. Let's talk about something like the Georgia Guidestones. And I'm sure you've seen these before, and I'm sure you know that they have astronomical features like the pyramids and other such items. Why would they be all lined up to the North Star if the North Star moves? It says here, the center column features a hole drilled at an angle from one side to the other through which can be seen the North Star, a star whose position changes only gradually over time. If it changed gradually over time, it would be moving a little bit at a time. We'd be able to see it gradually moving. Alright, closing up with Polaris. Looking at this article here, the North Star, aka Polaris, is famous for holding nearly still in our sky while the entire northern sky moves around it. That's because it's located near the North Celestial Pole, the point at which the entire northern sky turns. It marks the way due north. As you face Polaris and stretch your arms sideways, your left hand will be to the west, your right hand to the east. About face of Polaris steers you due south. Now we'll scroll down a little bit and find out about the history of Polaris. Polaris hasn't always been the North Star and won't remain the North Star forever. For example, a famous star called Thuban in the constellation Draco the Dragon was the North Star when the Egyptians built the pyramids. Alright, let's call bullshit on this one. Let's find Thuban. I know it's here somewhere, one of these ones. This one. No, this one. Okay. So that star there that I just circled, how would that star have been the North Star when the Egyptians built the pyramids? Do you see which one I'm talking about? I just highlighted it again. None of the other stars would have been. They didn't. How did it get? What did it leapfrog? Last thing, when doing some research on this one, I found this Stack Exchange physics page that basically had somebody saying that they were doing a diagram for stars in and around Pleiades, and they've been coming across some negative parallax. They didn't know how to handle it. They referred to the same article I have linked in the bottom in the description and wanted an answer. So we go down here. Let's see what the answer is. Oh, there's no answer. Alright, up next we have number 2 on my top 3 reasons why the Earth could not possibly be a globe. How about the northern and southern hemispheres? Now, shouldn't they be similar? at the very least. Now, I drew a little picture here. Sorry for my bad art, but... So this is what the southern summer would look like. So let's take a look at those two arrows. Those two arrows, the areas should be kind of close to the same, because half the year we're looking at this, and then as it goes around the sun, the other half of the year it is switched and leaning the opposite way. So they should be close to identical. However, there is one big difference. The sun is 3 million miles closer in the south summer. So from that, we should be able to make a couple of observations. First observation would be, since everything else is similar, all of the hottest temperatures on Earth should be in the south, correct? Well, let's look at the top 15 temperatures of all time. Libya, twice. Egypt, Saudi Arabia, India, Algeria, Mexico, Iran, Iraq, Pakistan, Kuwait, Israel, Tunisia, Death Valley, Nevada. Australia. There is one of the top 15 temperatures that has been below the equator. How is that possible on a globe where during the South's summer, the sun is 3 million miles closer? Funny that it only works on the flat Earth map. Another observation would be, if we look at the 2 degrees, 60 degrees north and 60 degrees south, the Arctic Circle and the Antarctic Circle, both areas should be somewhat similar again. Again, with the south getting the closer sun, it should be a little bit more bright and cheerful than the north. But let's start in the north. So these pictures are all pictures of exactly the Arctic Circle. They all were taken on that 60-degree marker. At the Arctic Circle, they have tons of animals, trees, brushes, flowers, birds. You name it, it's up there. Alright, so these are the Arctic Circle. Let's see. Now we'll take a look at some images from the South Antarctic Circle. Same degrees, same distance from the equator. Let's see what it looked like. What? Remember, in the south, they get the sun 3 million miles closer. Where's all the animals? Where's the brush? Where's the trees? Where's the weeds? Where's the flowers? They don't really look the same. Pretty sure this globe has been telling some lies for a while. Pull the car over, globe. Pull it over. Alright, globe. You know how fast you were going?
I think I was going around 66,600 miles per hour.
Oh boy, just making up numbers, are you today, globe? Think you've had one too many.
Honestly, officer, I'm not under the influence of alcohol like some people think. My set is hinting a bit, but I'm under control. I've only had Mutar Minis, and I've got all day sober to Sunday up in. So sis on you, pisser. You ain't so muckin' fudge. What in the world makes you think you're so smuckin' fart?
I don't even know what you just said, but you've been a mess for 500 years. Can't take it anymore. You're done. Come with me.
What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Alright, last but not least, point number 3 is...
Where is the curvature? Where? No curvature.
Okay, Mike, here's the issue. There is no curvature. And if there was, there would be a way we could measure it. You guys told us that it's 8 inches per mile squared, but that it's only good up to a quarter of the globe. So how can that be the correct formula for the curvature of the entire Earth? If we start at the top, say at the North Pole, and we walk around to the bottom, say the South Pole, we just went over a bunch of curvature. How would we measure that curvature? Now, many people will say you only can do a quarter of the globe because once you get there, you start walking back underneath yourself. Okay, I can see that that's a problem, but why don't we just turn the globe onto its side, lay it on a table, and now we can look at it as a racetrack, as if we're going around a racetrack. So if we look at the green flag there and think of that as the starting line, and we're going around a 25,000 mile racetrack, what is the curvature of the 25,000 mile racetrack? Also, being that we're looking at a perfect circle, shouldn't we be able to chop it up into segments, and by adding the curvature of each segment, we should get the entire curvature for the entire racetrack or circle? So if you see here, we took 25,000 people and put them 1 mile apart, and between each of them, they have to measure the curvature between them. So that would be 8 inches per mile. We don't have to do the squaring since we're measuring each distance. So 8 inches times 25,000 would be 200,000 divided by 12. 16,666 divided by 5280 comes out to 3.16 miles. So Mike, is that what you want me to believe, that there's 3.16 miles of curvature on a ball 25,000 miles around, and by only curving 3.6 miles I will end up back where I started after walking upside down? Let me try and explain what I think the curvature should be. So here you're looking at somebody who just walked from the North Pole to the South Pole. Obviously following the white arrows, he went around the globe, but he is now completely 180 degrees different from when he started. He started standing upright, now he's standing upside down. So an engineer told me if we draw a line from our 2 points on the globe surface, so you'll see I drew one at about 12 o'clock and one about 2 o'clock, and connected those with the line segment A, then the distance between A and the surface, which is marked as line B, would be the curvature. Would you agree with that? If so, then we'll take a new line, we'll call that D, from the North Pole down to the South Pole, and we'll call the line R for the radius going from the middle out to the surface of the globe. So now that would mean that if you walked from the North Pole down to the South Pole, you went over the amount of curvature that is R, which is the radius. Not really sure how this can be disputed, seems right. You definitely went up and over the 4,000 mile hill, so I could see it being 4,000 miles of curvature in 12,500 miles traveled. Now if we wanted to complete and go through the whole globe, we'd just continue on our way back up to the other side, and there that means that we went through 7,917 miles of curvature. And so if we wanted to figure out the curvature of the entire ball, we would just do 2 pi r, which equals 24,862. Then take that 7917 and divide it by the circumference, which is 24,862, and we get 0.318. Let's see if this sounds right. So you'll see I use the red marks to mark off 8 sections of the globe. So it's 8 different sections, so we take 24,862 and divide it by 8, which gives us 3,107. So that's 3,107 miles traveled in between each of the red segments. And if we take that and we multiply it by the 0.318, we get 988. Well, 988 sounds about right for the miles of curvature in each section of 3,107. And if we take that 988 and multiply it back out by the 0.318, of course we get the 7917, which is the exact diameter of the Earth, which is double the radius, which is the curvature of each half. So when you look at it that way, it starts to make sense. Now we can actually figure out what the curvature of the globe would be, and it is preposterous. Again, it is simply a deception. Math always has formulas that work for whatever they're trying to do, but in this particular case, just measuring the curvature of a circle, there's no way to figure out the curvature of a circle all of a sudden. Now we can only do a quarter of it. I thought math was reality. And if you take the 4 miles that my wife and I did, we were looking for 10 feet of curvature. If instead we were actually looking for 0.318 miles per mile times 4, that would equal 1.272 miles per curvature. And if you think about it, over 4 miles, you would need to curve quite a bit if eventually in 25,000 you came all the way back up, around, underneath your feet, and back to where you started. Certainly isn't 8 inches per mile squared. We know that that ends at a quarter of the globe, so you tell me, where's the curvature? Where? No curvature. And I'll leave you with this, why I think it possibly could be the hidden math equation of all time. Why have we never heard about 0.318? Did you know that you can take the circumference of any circle and multiply it by 0.318 to get the radius? Try and find that online. It's that simple. How about 1 divided by 3.14, so 1 divided by pi is 0.318, and 1 divided by 0.318 is pi. Now this works on any circle. If you were to take a 25-foot circle, the amount of curvature is 0.318 feet per foot of circumference. So you tell me, what is the equation to figure out the curvature of the Earth? If it's my equation, well, the Earth is not a ball. Because we all know that there's no way that in 4 miles the Earth curves 1.3 miles. Just doesn't happen. Kind of makes sense though when you look at the world around you. Where's the curvature? Where? Alright, Mike. That's it. You're up next. I look forward to hearing your rebuttal. I do have one final thing to say in closing, and that's simply the confusion that the scientific world is under when you all say relativity is true. It must be true for your current system. Yet you also say the Earth goes around the Sun, as if nobody realizes that that's not a scientifically accurate statement if you are in a relativity world. If relativity is true, then there is no preferred reference point, meaning any two bodies that are orbiting, either one can be said to be orbiting the other. So how is it that you guys can just pick and choose relativity here, not here, curved space-time here, not here, Newton gravity here, not here? Doesn't make any sense. If mass curves space-time, where's the Newtonian laws of physics that say any action must have an equal and opposite reaction? Where's the equal and opposite reaction if the body is curving space? Space isn't curving the body back. Shouldn't they equal out? You guys got a lot to work on here. And I think what happened here is easily explained if we look at Copernicus's book On the Revolutions and the foreword by Andreas Osiander. In it, he talks about all the different reasons that astronomy is not quite what we think it is, pointing out the absurdities and faults that astronomy has that don't meet observations. For example, Venus, its diameter should change by 4 times the size from apogee to perigee, and yet it does not. This clearly states that the art of astronomy is meant to make a mathematical explanation for what we see. It is not meant to describe reality. He finishes the foreword by admitting exactly what it is. So far as hypotheses are concerned, let no one expect anything certain from astronomy, which cannot furnish it, lest he accept as truth the ideas conceived for another purpose, and depart from this study a greater fool than when he entered it. I think somebody took Copernicus's mathematical equations and decided to call them real life, and that's why we're here today. Good luck, Mike. I really hope your handler lets you leave the forum long enough to create this rebuttal. So be kind to each other, don't lie to each other, and open up your mind, there's truth inside. Till next time, peace!